First, thank you for taking the time to meet with me today to discuss the role of the AmeriCorps VISTA program within your organization, which is Hunger Free America. Um, so just jumping right in, I'll just start hitting you with some questions.
Sure,
You
my
are the
pleasure.
CEO of Hunger Free America and have built your career in the field of food security. Your organization utilizes the Federal AmeriCorps Service Program, and I believe you had a hand in this program's creation during the Clinton administration, if I'm correct there. Um,
In the AmeriCorps program overall, although the VISTA program predated AmeriCorps by a few decades.
right, right.
We can get into that if you like.
So, like you say, as an authority in your field, can you talk to me a little bit about your work, Hunger Free America's mission, and how your organization utilizes the AmeriCorps program?
Hunger Free America is a national direct service and advocacy nonprofit 501c3 organization trying to build a nonpartisan movement and the policies and programs necessary to end hunger in America. While we do policy work, because the VISTA program is federally funded, our VISTAs aren't involved in our policy work at all. But we do, in our other non-federally funded hats, fight for policies to reduce hunger and poverty and increase the federal nutrition assistance safety net. On the direct service side, not only do we have one of the nation's largest AmeriCorps VISTA programs, sort of a domestic Peace Corps, helping hunger organizations around the country build their capacity to fight hunger, we also help people get SNAP, which used to be called food stamps, and WIC for pregnant women and children under 5, navigating them through very complex application processes. We run the National Hunger Hotline on behalf of USDA, where we handle tens of thousands of calls a year, where we direct people to private and public food resources. We have a strategic volunteerism program. We're trying to change the way people volunteer, helping people use their professional skills as doctors, lawyers, accountants, graphic designers, coders to make even a bigger impact in the fight against hunger. And we do a lot to promote access to child nutrition programs. Only half the kids in America who get school lunch get school breakfast. We're trying to improve that ratio. There's a brand new federally funded program run by most states called the Summer EBT program to provide $120 worth of food credits to any child in America eligible for free meals over the summer when schools are closed. And so that's what we do, the direct service and the advocacy. Again, we don't involve VISTA in the advocacy at all. And the reason we have used a VISTA program, and as some of you watching know, some of you don't know, there's the overall AmeriCorps program, which is sort of the domestic Peace Corps. The AmeriCorps does many things. It responds to natural disasters. It helps improve education. It protects the environment. It boosts public safety. The VISTA program is a subset of the overall AmeriCorps program that is focused just on poverty reduction, and obviously hunger reduction goes hand in hand with poverty reduction. So VISTA is focused just on poverty reduction. And unlike most of AmeriCorps, which is sort of direct service, in most cases, VISTA is capacity building service. So to give an example, for a direct service project, if you are creating a community garden, direct service participants in other AmeriCorps programs might plant the seeds and hoe the soil, and then water the plants, and then harvest the plants. Technically, AmeriCorps VISTAs, which stands in Volunteers in Service to America, even though they're not quite volunteers, they receive small living allowances. But VISTAs wouldn't do that direct work. They would recruit volunteers to work alongside them to do that work. They would help raise money to be able to buy fresh soil. They would build partnerships to be able to get the land. And so both the direct service and AmeriCorps direct programs and the capacity building in VISTA are absolutely critical. And why do we have a VISTA program at Hunger Free America? Really a few reasons. Number one, first and foremost, to get things done. VISTAs accomplish things in communities, building the capacity of nonprofit groups around the country. And we have dozens of partners from around the country that we work with, and we've had sites from literally Alaska to Maine, building the capacity of local organizations. And so that we really want to make sure things that are falling through the cracks in society, because there just aren't the resources, we use citizen power in VISTA to help fight hunger. That's number one. Number two, we use VISTA to build a new generation of leaders. A lot of our VISTAs have gone on to some incredible things, to be doctors and lawyers. One of our former VISTAs is a state legislator from the state of Arkansas. And whether you continue your career in nonprofit service, as many, if not most of our VISTAs do, or you go on to a career in something entirely different, this year or two that many Vistas provided their lives to making this difference at the grassroots, that greatly informs how they carry out this work and makes them much better leaders and citizens over a lifetime. And lastly, I have a very selfish reason for having Vistas. That's to improve my morale. You know, I've been with this group 23 years now. Before that, I worked for 8 years on similar issues for the federal government, including, as you said, on the startup of the AmeriCorps program. And it can be draining doing this work for a few decades. It can be dispiriting that, you know, sometimes we have improvements, sometimes we go backwards. But when we have a new crew of Vistas come in every year, fresh-faced and energetic, they just bring this infusion of enthusiasm and commitment and idealism. And it reminds me every year what this is all about. The greatest strength of the greatest weakness of some Vistas is their greatest strength. They don't know what hasn't worked before. They don't know what has worked before. So they're always proposing new ideas. Can we try it this way and that way? You know, and sometimes it's already being done somewhere they don't know about. Sometimes it's not a good idea, and we explain why this has been tried, didn't work. But that time they come through with a brand new idea or a brand new way of seeing it, you've always got to be thinking this through. And Abraham Lincoln once said, to paraphrase, I never once respected someone who didn't know a little more today than he did yesterday. And the Vistas always help us, me as a person and us as an organization, know a little more today than we did yesterday. So that's why we have Vistas, to get things done, to also, like the rest of the AmeriCorps, to build community, promote opportunity, and enhance personal responsibility, but also to build a new generation of leaders and to always infuse us with a new team of idealistic people dedicated to ending hunger in America. Obviously, I've thought a lot about this.
No, that's a great response. And having worked with your organization this past year, you know, I agree. The Vistas, they bring so much just enthusiasm and freshness to
And I
these
will say, without getting
environments.
into politics, which Vistas can't get into, there's a lot of cynicism in American society today, a lot of hopelessness in society today, a lot of ways people feel they're unable as individuals to make a difference. We eschew, and Vista helps us eschew the cynicism and despondency and the hopelessness, and says everyone can make a difference. Particularly in the VISTA program, where you're donating a year of your life. For those of you not familiar with VISTA, it's a calendar year of someone's life. Supposed to be 7 hours per day on average. Many Vistas work far more than that, often below their local minimum wages, because they really want to make a difference in their country. And we give them, we don't just lecture them, oh, make a difference, show personal responsibility. Vista gives people concrete, structured ways to make a big difference.
Right. Well, thank you for that. And in kind of preparation for speaking with you, I've read your book, How
I
Hungry.
see my first one on hunger.
Oh,
Not to brag, but I have written 2.
you have written too. I've read How Hungry is America,
Yes.
and
To be precise, the name is All You Can Eat, How Hungry is America.
right. I read the subtitle. I apologize.
Yes, no problem.
Have it right here. But
And I'm not hawking my book for money. You can get it for free at your finer public libraries around the country. Or if anyone really wants a PDF, I'd send it to them too.
That's great. No, I am a great advocate of libraries as well. But that was
Just a side note, libraries are one of the great bastions of democracy today. They have PhDs working alongside, homeless people, each getting what they need out of the facilities. And I live near one of the greatest public libraries in America, the Brooklyn Public Library main branch. My mother had her first job there. I just can't say enough about public libraries. And many public libraries have a role in fighting hunger. A number of them host summer meal sites for kids over the summer. So just a shout out to public libraries and to librarians across the country.
I'm in total agreement with you there. But what I wanted to get to, and if you can speak to this a little bit, this book was written in the backdrop around 2008 of like the housing crisis and a different, I guess, like American economic reality. Recently, the country and the world has gone through a global pandemic. HFA has been there through it all. And I was just wondering if you could speak on where you have the Hunger Free's mission. Like if you could barometer, like is the work in a good place? Are things moving in a positive direction, or how is?
Yeah, it's hard to answer that in a way that doesn't violate VISTA rules, frankly, but I'll just put it this way. When we raise wages, ensure fuller employment, and ensure an adequate safety net, hunger goes down. When there's higher unemployment, lower wages, and a less adequate safety net, hunger goes up. And that's just, you look at the history of hunger starting in the early 20th century. Frances Perkins, who went on to become the first female cabinet secretary in U.S. history, who helped create the Social Security Act and some of the first worker safety legislation in America. In 1910, as a young graduate student at my alma mater, Columbia, wrote her master's thesis on hunger in the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood of New York City, which was the far west side of Manhattan. Some realtors have renamed it Clinton because Hell's Kitchen sounds too rough. It was mostly an Italian-American, Irish-American slum in 1910, and she went with teams of doctors to document what kids were eating or not eating there. And they were starving in many ways, like you would see in the developing world today, much worse than the most malnourished kids in America today, by and large. And even in the worst of the pandemic, even in the worst of the Wall Street collapse and the housing crisis of 2008, things were far better than in 1910. There was no minimum wage legislation in 1910, no workers' compensation payments for injured workers in 1910, no unemployment insurance for people who are unemployed in 1910, no SNAP program, what was called the food stamp program, providing vouchers of food, no WIC program for pregnant women and children under 5, no school lunches, no school breakfast. And so without any of those wage protections and without any of those safety net programs, things were far worse in 1910 than even the direst situation of the last few decades. So just looking at history, we can have a good idea of what will work today and what would work in the future.
Great. Well, thank you for gracefully answering my slightly political question there. Or a question.
It was a policy question, and I answered it as concretely as I could regarding our limitations of what we can say in a federally funded program.
Right. Well, let's see.
And then I also say that job growth and wage growth has been the greatest engine of poverty reduction in America. So if I talk about what's traditionally seen by some as a liberal slant, that safety net programs help, I do also want to point out what's sometimes seen as a conservative slant, although I consider this mainstream, that private sector job growth and private sector wage increases are one of the most effective ways to reduce hunger and poverty.
All right.
Assuming, by the way, that wage growth is spread out and really, includes the workers, not just executives.
Right, right. And that's a discussion in and of itself. Um, well, great. Um, well, that answers all of my Vista related questions. And I'm, again, thank you so much for coming to talk with me today. Um,
My pleasure. I want to leave viewers with the understanding that we can end hunger in America. With the right policies and programs, we can end hunger in America. And citizen service and doing those other things as citizens we need to do to build a better society, we can make America hunger free. And that's why Hunger Free America has that name. And that's why we are so proud to work with Vistas. And Robert, thank you for your service. We really appreciate your dedicated service to the nation and the communities you serve.
well, thank you so much. I mean, and like you've said through the interview, the Vistas are the type of people that want to see change in society and improvement and a real caring. So it's been a pleasure to work through Vista, and it just provides so many opportunities outside of like giving back to the community. So that's
Okay.
what I've valued from the
Thank you
experience.
so much. And for any national service, former or current one serving, or anyone in the military current to serving, working, or anyone who's a teacher or a firefighter or a police officer, anyone, thank you for your service.